Greetings, System Failure listeners. Nate here and Brian over there. And today we're talking about New Year's. Screwed up a little bit, that's okay. I was just taking a video, which is why I was muttering under my breath that I just screwed up the shot a little bit. I cropped out your face in the final seconds. I'll just fix that in post. But trying to take a little short video clip of the top of the podcast here, Brian.
Well, we could have edited out the muttering in post too, but...
Not nonsense. It's good to pull out the to raise the curtain a little bit and show how the sausage is made, I think.
Yeah.
But one of my New Year's resolutions this year is to greatly increase my presence on Substack Notes. And for those who don't know, Substack Notes is the Twitter-like mechanism that Substack has been connected to try to create. The problem is that other social media platforms have siloed themselves. They eliminated links to other social media platforms, so the Substack had to create their own. So just trying to make a little content there. All right. Well, with that preamble out the way, Brian, how are you doing on this fine, snowy Sunday up here in Maine?
I'm doing pretty good.
You're doing pretty good. All right. Glad to hear it. Have you got any exciting New Year's resolutions to share with the System Failures listeners? Are you going to change your whole life and shape up and finally fly straight here?
I don't know. Well, the inclusion of, pre-modern on Magic the Gathering Online is like a real bugaboo for not living like a degenerate.
I see. It's come out at a inopportune moment for your New Year's resolutions, eh?
Yeah, well, it came out for the holidays, and it lends to a lot of staying up late, and so my life was maybe better before, because I basically didn't play Magic the Gathering Online. I just played in paper with real people.
Well, didn't you have a real tournament yesterday? Did you manage to sweep the board? I feel like you would have mentioned it as soon as I walked in the door. Usually, if you've had a rousing victory, you're quick with the news, and usually you don't. You're not so quick to mention it if things haven't gone well. But how was your battlefield luck yesterday?
Well, that was like the local tournament here in Portland, and it is a growing scene, and we had like 23 people, which would make for a 5-round tournament because it's like powers of 2. So when you get over 16, it's supposed to be 5 rounds, but because the leader or the store owner is crazy, we had to do 4 rounds anyway, and so really it was just like your record based on 4 rounds, and I went 3-1, which was good for $30 in store credit. So I don't know, I lost the first round but then won 3 straight. So anyway, that's kind of like a lesser tournament with like crazy logistics, and it's not like it cuts to a top 8 where there's a real showdown at the end.
It does sound anticlimactic. Is it because you would think the man would want more people to show up to his tournaments? Is he trying to limit the number of people that come to his store to do business? What's the plan here? Is it just? Seems so odd.
There was a kerfuffle because I guess he has to come up with a different prize support plan if there's like 5 rounds versus 4 rounds. I guess he's got it all worked out just how he wants for the prize support if there's 4 rounds. And then what happened is they were trying to text the owner to get permission to run another round, which seems absolutely crazy. And apparently he was at a funeral because someone near him had died and he really didn't want to be bothered. And so it was I don't know how all that could happen. It seems like it would be really easy to have prizing based on attendance, but apparently he has to come up with a model or something. It's crazy.
Man, yeah, I don't know if it's worse to be an employee or an employer. You could try to, see your dear old mom off to the next world, and you're getting texts about the structure of some unimportant Magic tournament. That seems rough. That's really funny.
So anyway, I guess my New Year's resolution is to try not to live like a degenerate.
Well, as mentioned, my New Year's resolution involves Substack Notes. So I have 3 different vitamins that I take. I have a fish oil. I have like a creatine monohydrate, and then I have a magnesium glycinate. And then, so I have 3 vitamins I got to take every day. And so to help me remember to take my vitamins, I have 3 different kinds of Substack notes that I post every single day. I take a picture of me doing my work that day, which is what I was just doing at the top of this podcast when I, accidentally framed out your face a little bit there. I got some content. I'll put it on notes. It doesn't matter so much. You just gotta. So I have like a picture of me typing or doing this podcast. That's the morning when and I'll also have my my fish oil caplet in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I have I'm reading the entire 11 volume series, The Story of Civilization by Will and Ariel Durant. It's like the greatest work of history there is. It's from the mid-20th century, so some parts are a little outdated, but the prose is excellent. It's really eloquent. You got the Will and Ariel write so well. It's great to be able to read their books every day. So whenever I come upon an interesting passage, I take note of the passage, and then I put one of those quotes on Substack Notes every day. And then the last thing is I have a whole list of my favorite artworks. I have 365 paintings that are like my favorites, and so every day I'll post another one of those, in the evening, and that's when I'll take my magnesium glycinate. So this is my New Year's resolution, right? To 3 Substack notes per day and 3 multivitamins per day, or not, supplements, whatever you want to call these things.
That sounds crazy. Like, why not just take all your vitamins at the same time?
Well, the mixture of creatine monohydrate and fish oil is horrific. You don't want to do that. That's a terrible, terrible situation. And the magnesium puts you to sleep, so you don't want to do that either. And furthermore, you don't just want to jump on Substack and punch out all your notes in the same 5-minute span. You got to spread them out like breadcrumbs throughout the day. Leave a little trail of breadcrumbs. So that's how it works. And so that's my New Year's resolution, and that's what I'm up to.
I think you need, because what you need to do is assign each vitamin to like an alchemical element, like water, air, and fire. But you need one more is the thing, right?
Let's see. Yeah, there's earth, fire, water, air, and there is a 5th one too in some. Oh man. There are 5 elements and there are 5 platonic solids. What is the 5th one? It's like going to be ether or something like that. I can't. Let me just pull this up. What are the 5 platonic elements? Well, I look up the 5 platonic elements here. I did have a funny. It is ether. Yeah, ether. Okay, so the platonic solids and the platonic elements are as follows. The tetrahedron is fire. This is the one with well, we all know what a tetrahedron is. Octahedron, air. Hexahedron, that's the cube, earth. Icosahedron, the water. And the dodecahedron, is the ether. So thank you, Plato, for that enlightening, for that lightning thing. Anyway, funny story. Someone smashed our mailbox again. Oh, I live off 202. You know where I live, Brian. It's kind of a bit of a major road here in Maine. And about 2 months ago, someone tried to avoid a deer, and they smashed 2 mailboxes. I guess they did not get mine. They got my neighbor's and my neighbor's neighbor. And then yesterday, someone came and cleaned out my mailbox and my other neighbor. So, it has just been a demolition derby out there. And I noted with amusement that someone had destroyed my mailbox, and I was like, I got to bring this up on the podcast. And so on the way over here, I was pulling out of my driveway to come to here, and I just saw the smashed mailbox, and it reminded me, and I was like, let me put a little note in my notes app to talk about this on the podcast. And so I pulled up my notes app while I was driving and wrote the word mailbox and put it away. And I was like, well, that's probably what the person who smashed the mailbox was doing, right? Unless they were trying to avoid a deer, they probably were sending a text message, veered off the road a little bit, and didn't correct back to the road before their rearview mirror cleaned out our mailboxes there. Both my neighbor and my neighbor's mailbox are on the same post. It's one of those dually situations. And so that's completely gone. And that's most annoying because I'm expecting a gift card from LOB to arrive in the mail, and now I don't know how they're going to deliver that. Hopefully the landlord will get that mailbox patched up soon enough. But yeah, it's wild out there on Route 202. Watch out.
All right. Well, maybe they'll just set the mail down on the street.
Can they do that? I don't think they can. Yeah. They might have to bring it up to your door. Maybe they just don't deliver. That's going to be what it is, right? They're not going to give you white glove service. They're just going to be like, no mailbox, no delivery, and move on with their day.
All right. Well, I guess maybe some other people need to make New Year's resolutions about texting and driving.
Yeah, just assuming. I don't know if it was a deer this time or what. All right. So also the other thing this morning is just so many things have happened. Since so usually on Friday I send out a note to you and me and other people that are sometimes guests on this pod just to let them know what we're going to be talking about, and then everything changed everything changed after Friday, so I had to revise my my email about what we're going to talk about in the podcast, and so I've sent you a brand new one here because just the news has been off the chain, and we'll get to all that, but. The first thing that I wanted to mention, another thing that I am doing this New Year's is the Subrosa Club. The Subrosa is this old Greco-Roman term for a secret meeting, Anyway, I send out these weekly emails, and so now there's the Subrosa Club. So I have my weekly email, and then after that, for paid subscribers, I just have a handful of paid subscribers rolling in, and I feel like I got to do something for these people. Right now, my Substack account, or up until yesterday, it said... free. Everything on Substack is free. If you're paying, it's just to support the author. But I felt bad for the poor people who had actually paid. I should offer them some content, So Every single week, I'll now also do the Subrosa section, which is for paid subscribers only, but I'll do a free preview on the first Sunday of every month, and hopefully that will bring in some more sheaves, convince some people to maybe join the ranks of the paid subscribers, or at least maybe the folks who are free subscribers can at least enjoy it once a month. So that's a new thing I'm working on. That's another thing for 2026. The terms, I just wanted to mention this as an interesting piece of history. The term Subrosa, it comes from Greek mythology, and the story is that Aphrodite gave a flower. It has like a flower of secrecy that she gave to the god Harpocrates, who is the god of secrets. And Harpocrates is the Greek name for the Egyptian god Horus, the child version of the Egyptian god Horus. Now, Brian, you may or may not be aware of this, but the Egyptians conceptualized the sun god in its 3 stages, right? The child Horus, where we get the word horizon and horoscope, is the young Horus, right? The young child. So the rising sun is, the Egyptians conceptualized the rising sun as the childlike Horus. And then at noontime, right, when the sun is directly overhead, right, you get the mature sun god Osiris or Ra, and that's what the Egyptian obelisks are meant to do, like those pointy needles, like the Washington Monument. Right, the idea is that when the sun is directly overhead, the obelisk casts no shadow. In the absence of a shadow, indicates the presence of the dread god of the noonday sun. And then, of course, Set, the god of death, where we get the word sunset, is the setting sun, the old man, the dying, the god of death or what have you.
It all makes sense.
Yeah. So this god. So the thing about the ancient Egyptians is they took the babblings of children very seriously. Like, they venerated cats, and another thing they did was they thought that children could see things that adults couldn't see. So the children's games of make believe, like the Egyptians, took deadly seriously. And so when you go to Egypt, right, you see whenever there's temples to Horus, right, the child god Horus is depicted as taking his index finger and pointing to his own lips. And when the Greeks arrived in Egypt to Hellenize it, right, we're thinking of like Alexander the Great in the 3rd century BC, right, the beginning of the Ptolemaic dynasty, of which Cleopatra belongs, right? So the Greeks arrive, and they don't understand this about the old Greek religion. They have their old Egyptian religion. They have a new Greek religion in which they're using Harpocrates instead of Horus. And the child pointing to his own lips, who they saw all this iconography of, became the symbol for a secret, right? Subrosa. And so that is why the sh symbol is the point. You take your index finger and put it to your lips to say sh. Well, that comes from the Greeks seeing the old statue of Horus with the child pointing to its own mouth, understanding that these secret and sacred sites, there were mystery schools, so you would so they associated secrecy with the index finger pointed to the lips. And so that's where we get the sh symbol from. And that's why, I wanted to call this section the Subrosa Club. So, yeah. So that's what I got going on in 2026. Pretty exciting, eh, Brian?
It is exciting.
Oh, yeah. Well, the other thing that happened, and you were telling me before the pod that you had not managed to listen to this show yet, but the TikToker conspiracy theorist Ian Carroll made a little pilgrimage up to old Bryant Pond, Maine to visit with Tucker Carlson and discuss none other than the biggest mass shooting in American history, the 2017 shooting on the Las Vegas Strip, where hundreds of people were injured and some 60 people lost their lives at a Jason Aldean concert. Now, I'm sure you remember this shocking incident, Brian. It was in and out the news in a week. And I wonder if you could tell me, if you recall, what the mainstream media story was. I mean, the fact that you've not heard the podcast is good, because there's this impression of what happened in Vegas. And even though I think everyone understands that it's unsatisfactory, we've been given a story as sort of a placeholder. What's your impression of the story of what happened in Las Vegas?
Well, let's see. I think, isn't it supposed to be like some kind of professional gambler or something? Yeah. Started shooting things up, and then someone took him down, and that dude went on the Ellen DeGeneres show. That's
it. Yep. Yeah. So, so that's pretty much the story. This guy, Stephen Paddock, apparently some kind of a nut. He rented a double suite at the MGM Grand there in Las Vegas. And he knocked out a couple of windows and just used he had dozens and dozens of AR rifles in his room, some of them with bumps, supposedly with bump stocks. And he just opened up on this Jason Aldean concert, and then the SWAT teams came and he shot himself when the SWAT team arrived. That's the story. Does that sound about right? I mean, that should be, yeah. But that story, of course, is not even remotely true. A whole bunch of other things happened that you can easily look up and verify. And the first one is that it wasn't. First of all, the SWAT team is not who showed up at the SWAT team is MIA. There was one SWAT member, and then just regular Las Vegas Metro PD, kicking in the door. And there's video of this. In the video, there is no glass on the floor, and the police officers are saying they can't find a hole. They're looking through the curtains, and they're like, no hole, nope, nothing here, nope, there's no hole. There was a broken out window, but it was in the adjoining suite that was barred and locked from the other side, meaning that Stephen Paddock couldn't access it. Then there's the question of this Jesus Campos, the security guard, who we hear a bunch of different versions of his story. He arrived before the shooting and someone discharged around from behind the locked door. He arrived during the shooting where there would have been loud gunfire, or he arrived unclear. It's just he approached the door and there was a round got discharged from the other side of the door, and so he left. And then he went to Mexico, and then they brought him back for a weird and scripted appearance on Ellen DeGeneres, and then he disappeared again. And so that's all we know about that.
Well, though, no hole business. I guess they're just saying there's no hole to shoot through.
Correct. None of the in the suite in which Stephen Paddock was locked, there was no hole, according to the body cam footage of the team that breached that room. Right? They are audibly talking about how there's no broken window, right, in that room.
I guess there's not a window you could open.
Yeah, this is like the 32nd floor, and there's serious glass. You have to have a special hammer to break it. And in the crime scene photos, there is such a hammer and a bunch of broken glass there. But in the initial breach with Stephen Paddock's body on the floor, right, But they're talking to each other about how there's no broken window in the room.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So presumably Stephen Paddock is just the adjoining suite, to the one next door where the shooting actually happened. Then it sounds like.
Well, both suites were rented in the name of Stephen Paddock and I guess 3 other women apparently. And he had a bunch of duffel bags filled with rifles, but the suite that Stephen Paddock was not in, his body's in one suite, and then next door is the suite with the busted out window. But by the time you see the crime scene photographs, both suites have a busted out window. But the door was barred and locked from the other side, meaning so that someone was in the other suite, barred it and locked it, meaning Paddock didn't have access to the other suite. He would have had to he was barred and locked into his room, and then the door to the adjoining suite was barred and locked on the other side, right? So something is off here, right? Something is very, very strange. And other bizarre details. There were reports of a mass shooting at McCarran Airport, which is you can see McCarran Airport from you may recall we went and stayed at the Luxor one time in 2005, and this is right next door to MGM Grand. And our room faced the opposite direction, but if our room had been on the other side of the Luxor, we would have been able, we were looking west, but we could have looked, but if we'd been on the east side of the Luxor, we would have been able to see McCarran Airport on the other side of the Las Vegas Strip, right? It's right there next to the Strip. It's not far away. By the way, they've renamed McCarran Airport, what's the name of the senator who's all about the UFO investigations? The Nevada senator there. Harry Reid. It's now the Harry Reid Airport. That guy McCarran was a senator from the 30s who was a noted anti-Semite, so they changed the name from McCarran Airport. Since the shooting, they changed the name from McCarran Airport to Harry Reid Airport. But it's right. You can see it from the you can see it from the Strip, and I guess so. Apparently, you can hear the recordings from the air traffic control at McCarran Airport. And they're getting reports of a mass shootings and gunmen in the hangars and on the runway at McCarran Airport. And then there's a mysterious order that you can hear on these in these ATC recordings. There's a mysterious order to douse the runway lights for a period of time. But that doesn't fit into the unofficial story anywhere. We just never hear about that again. There are reports of gunmen and gunshots in hotels up and down the Strip. There's a LasVegasShootingMap.com. I think that's the right URL. If you search for that, it'll come right up. But someone has taken Google Maps. Ian Carroll talked about this endlessly on the podcast, and they had they've coordinated all the footage, all the reports, and they've put it all in specific geographical locations, and you can just see that what was happening was taking place all over Las Vegas. And then there are the reports of helicopters in the area. Lots more helicopters than had their transponders on and were supposed to be in the area. So there's way more helicopters than you can account for with official flight logs. So there's mysterious helicopters in the area and reports of gunfire coming from these helicopters and bullet wounds that look like they're coming from straight down, as opposed to at an angle from the MGM Grand across the street of concert goers at the Jason Aldean concert. So it seems like there were helicopters, lot of mysterious helicopters in the air. And it also seems like some of these helicopters were where the gunfire originated from, which is really weird. And then I guess the cherry on that Sunday, as far as the helicopters goes, is that the Saudi Air Force had been in town the week prior to do training exercises and to take delivery of a fleet of new Boeing helicopters. I think, what are they called? The Grey Wolves or something like that. Boeing still makes these helicopters. They're small, they're compact, they can be folded up and fit into a shipping container, like what you put on the back of a truck, like a freight container. And the Saudi military had taken possession of a bunch of these choppers, and they were all out there in the desert, not very far away from Las Vegas at the time the shooting took place. And so that leads us to the internal politics of Saudi Arabia, which is the only, according to Ian Carroll, it's the only. There is no evidence that elements of the Saudi royal family were in Las Vegas that day, although Mohammed bin Salman has a huge hole in his schedule, so no one knows where he was in 2017 when this was all going down. But the punchline here is that the king of Saudi Arabia was getting ready to hand off the throne to his successor, this Mohammed bin Salman, who has since become the ruler of Saudi Arabia. And there was a power struggle, right? There were people that were opposed to MBS and people who were pro-MBS, and there was a big power struggle in the succession for the Saudi throne. And one of the principals, whose name is I always have trouble remembering the name. Al-Walid bin Talal. This guy, he owns like 45% of the Four Seasons, and the Four Seasons has the MGM Grand, like the top however many floors are the Four Seasons, right? It's a different hotel. It's the Four Seasons. And so this guy used to be like one of the richest people in the world. He's since been cut down a whole bunch of pegs because he was a political opponent to MBS. But the idea here, the theory is that there was some kind of a coup or assassination attempt in the Saudi succession struggle, and that this took place in Las Vegas right in front of the public. I mean, you have people turning in handguns to Las Vegas police. They found all over the strip reports of gunfire, but you don't have civilian bodies anywhere other than the Jason Aldean concert. So it seems like teams of professional gunmen were shooting it out in Las Vegas like some kind of an insane movie. I think about Con Air. You remember the movie Con Air with Nick Cage from like 1997 or whatever? And they're on a prisoner transport plane, and because of some kind of a struggle, the prisoner transport plane has to like crash on the Las Vegas Strip. So this is like what we would get. What would the news tell you after something like that? Or what if James Bond came and shot it out with the henchmen in the Las Vegas Strip? Right? You would have like. The news would have to have some other story to try to satisfy the public, and they'd have to try to keep a lid on what really happened. So it seems it's the only theory I've ever heard that explains anything. And then the point they made on the podcast, and I thought this was a good one, is that whatever you may think of the likes of Henry Kissinger or Hillary Clinton, right? These people aren't going to get in a chopper behind a minigun and mow down concert goers, like shooting 20-year-old girls in the face. That's how they put it on the podcast, how Carroll himself put it on the podcast. But the sort of people who would be willing to do that or wouldn't care about that are like the hardline Wahhabi elements within the Saudi government, the opponents to MBS, who wants to modernize Saudi Arabia and take it away from hardcore fundamental Islam and away from exclusively oil-based economy and try to diversify their portfolio. But then there's the old hardliners who like the Sunni Muslims who demand like fundamentalism and think that any departure from fundamentalism is a temptation into error and sin. Those people, right, don't seem to like just obvious, like the Bin Ladenite elements within the Saudi power structure, right? Those people do not care about knocking off infidels, obviously, right? So that piece makes sense as well. So, I don't know. Hearing Ian Carroll's pitch for this explanation was very convincing to me because I haven't heard any, competing pitches. You just know that the official story is total bunk. But it makes sense.
Well, I remember watching video after it happened, and it just sounds like there's multiple, guns being fired. And then the dude going on Ellen DeGeneres was never very convincing.
Really strange, yeah.
Yeah. I was just watching 50 Cent's, documentary about Diddy, and Diddy's on there with Ellen DeGeneres, and he's alluding to what they're going to do after the party. Oh, he pulls out like a giant wad of cash too. And I don't know, like Ellen seems pretty suspect.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, she's some kind of has some kind of, she goes to the wrong parties, like our poor man Sam Harris, so she's got to do the state's bidding or something like that.
Although, I mean, she is married to, the blonde Kuntazi from Arrested Development there.
Yeah, I mean, what's that girl's name? I can't remember anymore. Lindsay from Arrested Development.
Yeah,
what's her name?
I read her book about anorexia, and she seems like a nice enough person.
No, she does. All right.
But I just get the creeps from Ellen DeGeneres. But maybe it is all a big sham. I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess I didn't used to, would watch Dora the Explorer, I mean, not Dora the Explorer, then Finding Nemo. She plays the forgetful
That's
fish
right,
on
yeah.
there. I think she plays Dora. Isn't that her name?
Yeah, Dory, I think. The super forgetful fish, yeah.
So you wouldn't think of her as like a lizard person, but watching her like interact with Diddy sure makes you seem like a lizard person. And that crazy bit with the guy, that scripted bit with the security guard, yeah. But yeah, I don't know, just always. Well, I think we've talked before on the podcast about the Las Vegas shooting, and it is crazy. People don't talk about it more. It's an absolutely shocking moment in history, and yeah, it just does seem like obviously some kind of military operation went down, and they gave the plebs some kind of explanation. We'll just cram it down their throat, and everyone move on. Yep,
that's exactly right, Brian. It seems to me that as the titanic gears of capitalism seize up and stop working and become less and less efficient, as the system gets more and more appallingly corrupt, as wealth concentrates in fewer and fewer and fewer hands, it does seem like the version of reality that the ruling class authorities fob off on us poor working class schmoes gets more and more and more ridiculous, and I just feel like they don't even have the respect to lie to us convincingly anymore. That would be a minimal level of respectfulness. And I'm sick and tired of it, man. I'm sick and tired of living in an obviously fake, confabulated reality. It's obnoxious. This is why no one watches the mainstream media anymore. It's like no one. Like, I have my $4 a month subscription to Wall Street Journal, and it feels like it's wasted money because I don't get proper information. You have to make sure that you are otherwise informed before you approach a publication like the Wall Street Journal, because you're getting CIA, compromise or talking points. Propaganda is what I mean to say, not compromise. And man, yeah, I am like exhausted from being sold an obviously fake version of reality. I can't wait for the. It is fun to see the legacy media and the politicians who are not the Donald, have to really, embrace public humiliation. It's nice to see the humiliation of Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, but I want more. I want more humiliation for the Donald's humiliation is on the way, right? I mean, it's like. I really, man, stuff like this gives me such a taste of such a disgusting distaste for the elites. I can't stand the sight of them. It's just awful. We live in a beautiful age of jet travel and instantaneous electronic communication. The ability to get a bead on reality is unprecedented, and yet what we get instead is trash from our vaunted institutions. The sooner they burn, the better. I welcome the chaos.
Well, I think are you saying you like being fed obvious lies?
I'm saying the exact opposite.
You don't like it. Okay. Well, we're probably I think in for more because there's just no there's no cap on how low they can go. I saw some Bitcoin meme. There's really no ceiling on the Bitcoin because there's no floor on fiat as to the depths it's going to sink to, yes. And so you're just going to get increasing polarization between the actual truth and then the swill they try to sell you on. So the contrast will become more and more remarkable would be my prediction for 2026.
In my mind, it's a horse race between Bitcoin and the central bank digital currency that they want to foist upon us. Is it going to be when we finally have to admit that the dollar is worthless because we've debased it to the moon and back? Are we going to be transitioning to a Bitcoin system or a central bank digital currency? I worry that Bitcoin's going to be made illegal so that we all have to suffer through with their latest mechanism of control, a central bank digital currency. But I'm rooting for Bitcoin. I haven't put nearly as big a bet as you have on Bitcoin, Brian, but I intend to increase my bets proportionally in 2026 here.
All right. Exciting stuff. I guess the good news about Bitcoin, I just think it's too expensive there's too much value there to just illegalize it. They'd alienate too many whales, I think. But that would be unfortunate. It's just if overnight Bitcoin became worth zero, that would be a shocking turn of events.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, obviously, Brian, I had to send you a revised email because the news out of Venezuela has been shocking these past few days. What say we take a short break, then we come back, then we dive into the news.
All right.
And we're back. All right, Brian, before we dive into the deplorable news out of Venezuela, I forgot to mention something super important about the Ian Carroll, Tucker Carlson podcast experience. I told myself I wouldn't forget to mention this. I did, but I remembered over the break. So let me wedge it in right here at the top of the second half. There was some banter at the end of the program in which Mr. Carroll intimated unto Mr. Carlson that he had come up, he had worked as a chef for many years, and he had all this experience in different kinds of delicious foods. He listed a few of them, to which Tucker Carlson responded, how are you not fat making all this delicious food? And Ian Carroll said in response, I have Crohn's disease, so I can't. so my ass is broken, is what he was saying. And I was like, man, everyone's ass is broken. Like, I don't know, I can count the number on one of the people I know who I don't think they have a broken ass. I just haven't asked them. But everyone that I know seems to have a broken ass. Like that, like the Robbie the Fire Bernstein's 2024 joke about no one can trust a fart anymore because everyone's rectum is destroyed is hilarious because it's true. I took my phone and I asked Google, how many people in the U.S. have Crohn's disease? And the answer was between 750,000 and 1 million Americans live with Crohn's disease, though estimates vary, yada yada, affecting roughly 1 in 300 people in high prevalence areas like the United States. Now, I did note that rates are rising, but there's no way that only 1 in 300 people have a destroyed rectum at this point. It's got maybe 1 in 300 people have a not destroyed rectum. But this is just so everyone's embarrassed that their anus is destroyed, I guess. No one wants to talk about it. But like, there's no way it's 1 in 300, dude. It's like 250 out of 300 people are dabbing tearfully at the sad remains of their once proud asshole. And there's no way that we're watching. I mean, we've watched more hours of Sky Rizzy almost than we have of Drake May watching the NFL this season. I mean, there was just with the number of ads on TV for ass problems, there is just no way that it's 1 in 300. So anyway, I had to get that off my chest. I couldn't believe that Ian Carroll was talking about how his rectum was destroyed.
It's on the fritz.
Yeah. Yes, on the fritz. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Now I have to switch gears and go in a more somber tone because it seems, unfortunately, the United States government, like a child that just cannot stop touching a hot stove, like just cannot learn a lesson to save their life. We have embarked on another horrifying episode of regime change. It is hard times, man. I woke up on Saturday morning to the news that U.S. Chinook helicopters had invaded Caracas airspace, had landed, and I guess with some cooperation from the Venezuelan military, because they're not nothing, It's not like Iraq, one of these, ragtag countries. Venezuela's a real country. I guess they extracted President Maduro and his wife, brought them to Brooklyn jail, where they're at now. They're in prison in Brooklyn, and they're facing, drug and gun charges. I saw Representative Thomas Massey tweeted out that they're trying Maduro on a 1934 arcane gun charge. It is utterly bizarre. Man, I don't even know where to start with this. I guess I hope I hope to be wrong. I hope on behalf of the Venezuelan. I used to work with a lot of Venezuelans at the Song Mongolian Grill in Daytona Beach, Florida. Big shout out to my homegirl Karina and my good buddy Cesar. I miss those guys. Hope they're doing all right. I hope they're in Florida still and not back in Venezuela because things could get ugly there. But I don't know, man. A brief history of Venezuela is, if it's any indicator, when I think about the people, if Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen, the list is endless. If all these places are any indicator at all, the good people of Venezuela are in for a really hard time. It is bad news when the armies of darkness come marching over your border, or in this case, flying through your airspace. It never seems to go well. Let's hope this proves to be the exception to the rule, eh?
Well, I did, see some footage of, I guess it's Caracas, and you can see, the power's been cut because it's all dark in one part of the city, and, someone's filming it from their cell phone or what have you. And, there's, stuff's exploding, and there's obviously a tactical operation going on, and it just does remind me of the airport in Las Vegas there. When they cut the lights, it's some kind of tactical operation is going down. But yeah, you would think they would just Donald Trump has out and said that the plan is to take control of Venezuela until such time as they put an agreeable American patsy or something in there. And man, that is just absolutely terrible idea.
Yeah. How has that gone for us in the past? Oh, wait, it's gone horrible every single time and been an utter disaster and blown up multiple political careers. Like, I can't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I see like these people on Twitter are commentating about how it's going to be like a boon for American like resources. Like we're going to make all kinds of money. And I don't know, man. Like the price of oil is not very expensive anyway. It seems like absolutely crazy. Like are you and I going to benefit from this? Like are the amount of homeless people going to go down? Are like restaurants going to become affordable? Are there going to be like businesses out here like on Congress Street opening up? That all just seems extremely unlikely.
That's exactly right. You're directly over the target, if you'll pardon the unfortunate, parlance. That's exactly it, right? When we go to war in Iraq, it's a big payday for like defense contractors like Dick Cheney's Halliburton. It's an excuse, right? What it really is an excuse for the feds to round up all of our money and hand it over to these corporations. So yeah, it's going to be a great boon if you're one of these corporations. But if you're a regular person, right, it's like when we say the Iraq war cost billions of dollars, those billions do not go to Iraq. They go from Washington to Boeing, Washington to Raytheon, Washington to Northrop Grumman. That's the reality here. And so it will. What this is an excuse for the upper class to round up a whole bunch of our wealth and exacerbate the already catastrophic Roman Empire-like wealth inequality that we are currently living with. That's what this is all about. It will make things worse on Main Street in Portland. It will make all of it. It will. Yeah, it's always. It's like that George Orwell quote. The war was never meant to be won. The war is waged by the upper class against the lower class, and that's really to the fore. It's a great theme of system failure, right? That our reality is dictated to us by the authorities of the ruling class, and we, the working class, just get this crappy version of reality that's designed to get us to consent to things that are against our own economic interests, such as wars in Venezuela. And so that's what's going on here.
Well, is the whole business with the Somalian fraud in Minnesota, is that on the list of topics here to talk about?
It sure is. Yeah.
Well, it's just maybe as a bit of a lead-in or what have you. I mean, it seems like the Republicans or something had manufactured some goodwill out of nowhere with this crazy, Somalian fraud scandal in Minnesota that, all of a sudden became a big deal. But I think they certainly have immediately squandered it with this whole crazy bit in Venezuela. Yeah. And, I mean, I don't know how much it really matters if the Republicans win the midterms anyway. I mean, things are just going to get worse either way. So I guess but out of the idea of, I just can't stand the idea of voting for Democrats. But, so I guess either way, it's revolting.
Yeah. I did not. Did you watch Nick Shirley's YouTube video that went viral? Had like 35 million views on Twitter and 3 million more on YouTube, something like crazy.
I watched a few minutes of it, and he's like going up to these places and like knocking on the door, and there's like these Somalian women in hijab who are like not speaking any English and like trying to get away from him and whatnot, and then. Yeah, they're like approaching some, portly councilwoman in some kind of town meeting or something, trying to demand answers about this fraud, and she's trying to get away from them. It was a lot of that. And then saw a brief interview on Patrick Bet David with the Nick Shirley guy, and he said he was with the Church of LDS, and. Well, and that made me kind of question the whole thing as to what's going on here because, I don't know, there's just this idea that the CIA recruits from the Mormons there. And it makes me wonder if the narrative is being pushed or somehow. And then James Lindsay did do some reporting about this.
It did seem like the video. It seemed to me like the Nick Shirley video was very silly. It's like I don't like one of the daycares. I guess they open at 2:00 and he was there at 11 in the morning. So of course there's no kids. But this is a real scandal. Like dozens of people have already been indicted. This scandal goes back years. It's not something that's unknown. Dozens of people have already been indicted. What's happening here is it seems like just with this video going viral. It does seem like this is an attempt to scuttle the third attempt by Governor Tim Walz to seek a historic third term in the governor's mansion. So they're trying to. It seems like vengeance against the Donald's political opponents.
Well, I mean, I did see like Elon was on the Twitter making a big stink about this whole business because he does the Doge or whatever, but the Doge is like mostly a huge failure and like has done nothing to curtail our giant government budget. And he was also congratulating Donald Trump for this swift military action down in Venezuela that I'm sure won't have long-lasting implications.
Crystal Ball responded to Elon Musk saying that, Musk, Mr. Musk, I mean, you ran Doge. I mean, how many indictments for fraud did you refer to the Justice Department? Is the number 0? I mean, like, it feels like you were in the driver's seat but whatever. It does seem like it's a political opportunism. I'm sure that fraud is rife in the great state of Minnesota. I'm sure that I gotta think that the graft is horrific in every state, and it is certainly true that dozens of people have already been indicted on this issue. But it does seem like this is an attempt to leave a fling bag of dog poop on Tim Walz's doorstep. That's what I think this is. And you're right, the Venezuela thing has totally eclipsed it. The last item on the Venezuela front, the latest news on the Venezuela front, is that they're going with the vice president, who's a socialist hardliner. Did you hear this? You remember 2 weeks ago, this woman, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, what's her name? Maria Corina Machado. The U.S. smuggled her out of the country, and she didn't get to Stockholm in time to receive her Nobel Peace Prize. But she was in Stockholm and gave appeared on a balcony to an adoring crowd. It was a whole big thing, and the presumption was that the Donald administration was going to install this. She's like a fan of the Donald. Going to install this Machado to run the country, but they decided to not do that. They are going to go. The last thing I've heard from the Donald is that he is tapping Vice President and like I mentioned, socialist hardliner Delcy Rodriguez to run the country. Not sure. Like, why would she play ball? The Donald said at his press conference that she basically had no choice but to do whatever we want, but she has been since given some firebrand speeches about the horrors of imperialism and how Venezuela will not be intimidated by, the evil empire like the United States. So, I don't know.
Isn't the vice president like Maduro's wife or something?
No, his wife is in Brooklyn along with him, indicted on charges.
All right.
You might be thinking of the fact that Rodriguez's brother is in charge of the Venezuelan Congress. Don't quite know how that works, but he's like a big political figure there too. So this is a sister and brother combo that are like, again, socialist hardliners and totally opposed to the Donald. And I think that the thing we can offer on system failure that maybe most people don't know about is just a brief history of the socialist regime in Venezuela. I mean, like back in like the 70s or the 60s, American oil companies showed up in Venezuela, and they said, "You have all this oil under the ground. We'll extract it for you, and then we'll split the profits." Venezuelan people get half, American corporations get half, and that was all well and good until the 90s when this guy Hugo Chavez decided that this was like maybe that the wealth under the ground of Venezuela ought to belong to the Venezuelan people exclusively, and not in part not in part to any foreign corporations. And so he attempted a coup in 1992. The coup failed. He gets arrested and thrown in jail. But then in 1999, he wins the national election, tears up the deal with the American oil companies, and announces that all of the proceeds from the sales of Venezuelan oil will go to benefit the Venezuelan people. And that's exactly what he did. Set up a massive socialist state with all kind of, health care and all kind, just providing for the people. And that made him really popular. And as you might imagine, Brian, that made Mr. Hugo Chavez deeply unpopular with the oil companies. And if you're unpopular with oil companies, you're unpopular with the CIA. And the CIA cooed Hugo Chavez in 2003, installed a puppet government, only to have the populace in Venezuela rise up and oust the CIA-backed puppet regime and reinstall Hugo Chavez. So that's it. That's interesting. Now, Maduro had been one of Hugo Chavez's top lieutenants, and he took power, and I guess Maduro is a pretty corrupt and bad guy and was deeply unpopular in Venezuela. But what's really going on, you may recall in the years after the Iraq War, the oil price was really, really high. Right? You remember when oil prices were crazy, and there was all kinds of talk about how we have to get more fuel-efficient cars. Remember that from like 2007, 2008, 2009?
Yeah. Well, the price of gas went from like $1.30 to like $5.
That's it, yeah. That was a big part of the success of the Chavez regime. And then gas prices have since fallen off substantially, causing major economic turmoil in Venezuela, throwing their whole socialist state into total disarray, right, and making it impossible to run the popular socialist regime that had been extant in Venezuela. And so that, they have a lot of problems. This Maduro is corrupt, and I guess is, like I mentioned, unpopular. So it's the state of play over in Venezuela.
Well, I think if you're just like a humble citizens like ourselves with little insight as to the real like workings of what's going on in the world. Well, it's just like this Las Vegas shooting, right? It's like some crazy geopolitical thing or some crazy thing with Saudi Arabia. And so, like, maybe, like, you just have to hope that it's really not about enriching oil companies, this business in Venezuela, and that maybe, I don't know, Saudi Arabia is involved or something. It would be less irritating.
One thing is for sure, it's obviously not about, like, drugs. I mean, it's just, like, a tiny percentage of the drugs that come to the United States come from Venezuela. It's not significant on that front at all. It's total garbage. And I cannot believe the President of the United States feels comfortable coming out, holding a press conference, and just telling bold-faced lies and expecting us to believe it. I mean, no one believes. I mean, it's just so bad. No one believes it anymore. But,
it's just a few weeks ago we were like bombing some random boats.
Or just blowing up gunboats. Which of course is a war crime. Yeah. And that's my other commentary on that. I've already made this comment several times, I'm sure, on this podcast. But it's very interesting to me that, like, well, of course the Donald is corrupt, right? The Donald coin is obviously like a way to like have people give him money without having it be officially some kind of a campaign contribution, or without having officially corruption. Yeah, just buy the Donald coin. It's a separate transaction. Of course, all these real estate deals, are corrupt. Of course, it's corruption, but like, no one's more corrupt than Joe Biden, right? That guy is the one who he's the guy that got rid of the corporate income tax in Delaware, and he's the one that made it legal, and he removed the cap on credit card interest rates in Delaware. So all the credit card companies moved to Delaware so they could jack up their interest rates on all of their card holders. Right? Joe Biden's the one that made it illegal to discharge private student loan debt in bankruptcy court, personally ruining my life. So like the dude is like horribly corrupt. Right? Who's more corrupt than like the Obamas, than the Clintons, than the Bushes, right? So the mainstream media, we can't nail the Donald for being corrupt, and we also can't nail the man for waging, wars, illegal wars in foreign countries, because like, again, every president does that. Congress hasn't declared war since 1941. Every single U.S. military action since then has been completely illegal and totally unconstitutional. And but like, Obama did it, and Bush did it, right? And the Clintons did it. Everyone does it. So it's like the media, the CIA media, military-industrial complex. They can't really call out the Donald for waging illegal wars or call for his impeachment, even though that's exactly what should happen. So we have to just kind of criticize the Donald for being uncouth.
Yeah, well, what I would predict in the wake of this Venezuela business would be media sources saying how presidential the Donald is. Or I'm sure they'll start heaping praise on him for this crazy military action.
Well, it's going to go bad, and it's going to blow up in his face, I'm sure, like it did for the George W. administration, but we just can't help it. Just the way that our economy is structured, the military-industrial complex hungers. It needs grist for its mill, and so we just have to constantly be at war because that's the way that our economy is constituted, and it's the greatest tragedy of the modern era, as far as I'm concerned.
It sure is.
Well, I reckon, Brian, we ought to take a little more hopeful tack for the last bit of the show here. Why don't we talk about Mr. Mamdani taking over City Hall down in New York City? That was pretty interesting, and I'm excited to see. Now, I'm not really sure how much the man can actually accomplish, but did you see the part of his inaugural address where he said we're going to embrace collectivism?
I did not.
No, I mean, collective, I don't know, really. You'd have to be fairly far gone to the propaganda to think of collectivism in a negative light as far as I'm concerned. It's like, yeah, we like working together. Obviously, people work better in groups, right? What is the old saying? If you drop one man into a jungle, you're just feeding the animals. But if you drop a dozen men into the jungle, you're releasing an apex predator, right? Obviously, we work better together. So I don't see, but it does. But collectivism is just one of these one of these words that's vaguely associated with the horrors of Marxism or socialism or communism or whatever it might be. So I was really interested to see our man Mamdani lean into that versus shy away from it during his inaugural address. And you might have seen that our friend Bernard Sanders was down there too, having a good time.
if I got abducted by aliens, like one important question to ask them would be like if they see themselves as individuals or are they kind of some part of collective, right?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching Drew get in on YouTube, who was talking about shows he was watching, and I guess there's some show on Apple, their platform, and it's about like I guess like the whole world, like kind of everyone like wakes up as part of a collective and they don't see themselves as an individual except for like 12 people, and the show's about these 12 people and like this I think one woman who wants things to go back to the way they were and trying to find out like why this has happened. But anyway, being part of a collective would be awesome. You wouldn't have to like struggle with your individual ego. But I can see, well, I think that collectivism, without actually having like the collective awakening where like, you know, we all hear the logos in our brains or what have you. I mean, it seems like mostly a way to be abused or, well, what would be awesome is like an actual like collective awakening where it's not, it isn't like a grift, like, I don't know, some like Stalinist type thing.
Yes.
But like some like I think actual collectivism does, I don't know if people understand, but it would be like an actual like spiritual awakening among the masses, right?
It would be like a drug trip, right? You drop you would no longer perceive yourself as an individual. You'd perceive yourself as a cog in a giant community. And you're everything, all of the torture of being human, right? We uniquely in the animal kingdom, right? We are the ones that lie awake and worry about our mortality, right? Because we have this conception of ourselves, and now you extrapolate into the future, and you go, well, this conception of myself has an expiration date, and that's deeply disturbing. The family dog does not lie around, you know, agonizing over its mortality, right? Because it doesn't have the same, it doesn't operate with the same mental handle. It doesn't think of itself as an individual versus a collective. It's just not thinking that deeply about it. But our knowledge, our self-identification is the source of all of our agony and all of our pain. And our relationship to each other is the source of all the beauty and all of everything that's great about being human and having higher order brain functions, right? It's like friends and family and community, right? These are the things that make life worth living. It's our relationship with our ego, right? Is, I think, the engine that like drives all of history. And this is like Jesus Christ's big thing, you know, like the whole point of the crucifixion is that the man was so sure that he was not really himself, that he appeared to himself to be, that he was just willing to let the state just destroy his body in public as a way of demonstrating that certitude. And whether it happened or not, the story of it, right, the story of egolessness took over the Roman Empire like a wildfire. And I just think that you can just see how this weird perception of ourselves as an ego is a big part of history. You know, it's why people go on conquests. You know, it's pretty easy to see, you know, how if you scratch history like a lottery ticket, like one of those scratch cards, right just under the surface is this tension between our perception of ourselves as communities and our perception of ourselves as individuals.
Well, I guess we'll mostly have to like wait and see how it goes with Mamdani. I mean, no spiritual awakening has been reported to have happened in Manhattan yet, has it?
No, not yet. In fact, they're holding Nicolas Maduro hostage. They're the legitimate ruler of a foreign country.
Well, at least the thing about Maduro is, you know, there's some picture of him. He's like on a plane or something with like he's holding a bottle of water, and he's got some ear protection on or something, and it looks like he's not being terribly abused. Not like the end of Gaddafi, which was horrifying.
Sodomizing the corpse of Gaddafi on camera, not great.
An angry mob around him.
Yeesh. All right. Well, just one last thing I noticed on Wall Street Journal, just in the spirit of, you know, this is the first system failure podcast of 2026, and just in the spirit of new beginnings, I thought that this article was very interesting because it's about Instagram's success with Reels, and that relates to, you know, my perennial New Year's resolution to not look at infinite scroll feeds with short form videos on them, because that'll just collapse your attention span and send you into a state of true wretchedness. So I'll just back in 2020. Instagram used to be a picture app where you would take pictures of your dinner or some flowers or something and put it on there and people would like it, you know. But then in 2020, the Mark Zuckerberg over there at Meta was like, oh man, we really missed the boat here because TikTok is becoming popular, much more popular than we are. what are we going to do? And their solution was to cram short form videos, into the Instagram app and totally obliterate the photography business. My lovely fiance Tracy, who is a photographer by trade, I remember her being devastated by this in 2020. Like they're just like going to go away from photography and go to just short form video content. And at first, it was a total disaster. I guess everyone hated Instagram. It tanked the app's popularity. But unfortunately, I have to report to you that Reels has hauled in $50 billion in revenue over the past year. That compares to that's slightly more than YouTube's $46 billion and way more than TikTok's $17 billion. I hate to admit it, but it seems like the transition to short-form video is a success on every app that tries it, and that this is some kind of the perfect form factor to cannibalize everyone's attention span and make them just stare into their phone watching videos they're not even going to remember for hours and hours and hours.
I'll tell you one thing I like to watch are these AI-generated videos, and it's a cat on a porch like playing the drums and like crudely, and then someone comes out and is like, it's 12 o'clock, you have to stop playing the drums, and the cat like meows at the person angrily. And they've got him like playing the trombone and playing all kinds of instruments. And I think I guess a good New Year's resolution would be to not watch any of those crazy videos.
It's the short form video on the infinite scroll. I've said it 1,000 times, but it used to be that you'd have to go to page 2 of Google and page 3 of Google, but they've changed it. The computers are good and the internet speeds are good, so you can just go infinitely. There's no page 2. It just keeps loading more results as fast as you can scroll. Is that, and plus the 15, the 30, the 45-second video, right? That's just a disaster. It seems like that's like it's like cigarettes or junk food or any number of products that's like addictive but horrible for you in the long run. And so it does seem. I really hate to see. I wish that we would all punish Instagram or Meta for going to short form video, but that's not what's happening. Everyone's getting addicted to it and hooked on it. Comedian Bill Burr has his podcast. He talks about how he gave up Instagram only to turn to YouTube Shorts, and it's just because it's so addictive, and he just has trouble getting out of the short form. It's just easy, like it's like someone's going to spoon feed you, or are you going to get up and make dinner yourself, right? And it's like, well, it's not good if someone spoon feeds you all the time, even though it's really hard to say no if someone wants to, put a bib on you and start to feed you your dinner. It's much harder than getting up and chopping carrots yourself, but you really have to get up and chop carrots yourself, or you end up in a deeply unhappy state, an anxious state, like a state of no actualization and no self-esteem. Man.
The technological overstimulation is crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try as best I can to stay off those short form. I guess I don't really have any issues with short form video apps. I thumbs down them on Substack whenever they pop up, or I click not interested. So I don't get a lot of them. It's like a lot of paintings and words on the Substack, but and also Reddit. But really, it's best not to go on those. The infinite scroll is dangerous, even without the short form video, I find. I guess at the end of the day, what we have to have is discipline, as always. Not just let yourself be carried away by all the horrible addictive products that are on offer on every street corner in the catastrophic ruins of post-capitalist America.
All right, let's get some zins.
Yes, another classy example. All right, Brian, well, what say we leave it there for the first System Failure podcast of 2026?
Sounds good.
All right, well, I'll just invite you all to join us over at systemfailure.org. Sign up to receive the weekly essays. Get in touch with Brian and me on the About page. But above all, have a fantastic start to your 2026.
All right.